Congressman Ellison here to talk about a very critical anniversary before us tonight. The Iraq War anniversary is tomorrow, Mr. Speaker, and it's critical that we give this moment the due attention. I'm here as the person who leads our Progressive Special Order Hour, the Progressive Message. You know, in my great state of Minnesota, we had a young person who went out and sought mental health care, and there wasn't enough room, and they couldn't get in right away. And before this person could come back, took their own life because they couldn't get the helicopters out of their head. They couldn't get the horde. They couldn't get these kind of images out of their mind. And yet we learned that suicide is a serious issue for our fighting men and women, particularly in connection with Iraq. Tomorrow marks the beginning of the 7th year of the war in Iraq. Throughout that time, we've lost more than 4,000 of America's bravest men and women. The number to date that I have is 4,259. But of course, the way this war has been going, it could be 4,260 or 70. We've spent over $600 billion with long-term cost projections in the trillions, and we've seen Iraqi civilian casualties estimated at the hundreds of thousands. We know that there's over 30,000 Americans who've been injured, and of course the numbers of deaths are easy to count, but the injuries are more difficult because not all the injuries are manifested in terms of a limb or a scar. But of course, we've seen those too. You know, let me tell you, if you go to Landstuhl Air Force Base, the hospital there in Germany, you see bright-eyed young people who have suffered catastrophic injury, and of course, we've seen them back home. We all know, Congressman, that the purported reasons for going to Iraq, you remember what they are: weapons of mass destruction, and all we've been found with, Congressman, is weapons of mass distraction, as we've been given misinformation, disinformation, due to a combination of political pressure, cherry-picking of facts, poor intelligence. All these assertions ended up being wrong run, and dramatically undermine American credibility around the world. Congressman, you also would probably have to agree with me that this war has had a corrosive effect on our standing in the world. You know, whether you're talking about Abu Ghraib, whether you're talking about Bagram, whether you're talking about whatever you're talking about, you know, our country, which is known as a beacon of civil and human rights, as the rule of law prevails in America, we have seen this conflict sort of eat at what we stand for. Congressman, you and I also know that you were right when you say one of the purported reasons was weapons of mass destruction, which you and I learned was not true. But we also know that we were told there was sort of this link that was sort of made between Saddam Hussein and Al-Qaeda. What have we learned? The bipartisan, that's Republicans and Democrats, and the 9/11 Commission found that there was, quote, no operational relationship between Iraq and Al-Qaeda. Claims that 9/11 hijacker Mohammed Atta met with Iraqi agents in Prague turned out to be false. We were told weapons of mass destruction, links with Saddam Hussein and Al-Qaeda. I mean, and then we were told we're glad that, you know, we believe. Some people say, well, at least Saddam Hussein is gone, and of course we're glad he's gone. But it almost seems like when that argument was made that folks acted like it was a cost-free endeavor, that he was just gone and we didn't have to pay dearly as a nation for it. But, you know, one of the questions I want to also direct to you, Congressman, is, you know, $8 billion in reconstruction funding disappeared under the Bush administration's watch. According to Iraq's Public Integrity Commission, roughly $8 billion in the country's reconstruction funds were, quote, wasted or stolen between 2007 and the beginning of the invasion. But, you know, Halliburton, after receiving no-bid reconstruction contracts from the Bush White House, wasted hundreds of millions of taxpayer dollars. A 2005 report by Senator Byron Dorgan and Congressman Henry Waxman cited internal Pentagon audits that questioned, quote, more than $1 billion in the company's bills for work in Iraq. You know, I think it's just boggles the mind when you think about how much If the American taxpayer in their generosity says, let's get water going in Baghdad, let's get electricity going in Baghdad, at least if we spent the money, the people there ought to get it.